Get away from me.
No.
Get lost. Kojo. Get lost. Goodbye. I felt your lips on my earlobe.
You're too close. Welcome to the Kdrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the Kdrama Show with Ashley and Kim. Okay, we're back with the Kdrama Show. Episode 2 of Goblin /
The Guardian, the Great and Lonely God, / the Shining Lonely Goblin. I don't remember. I think that's right.
We'll stick with Goblin.
It's so much easier to.
It's so much simpler. So few letters.
So many fewer letters.
Yes. So we are going to shake things up just a little bit. We have a brand new segment on the Kdrama Show, which we are going to be calling the HyeJi Tea.
But it's not brand new because we have been calling it K-Culture Tidbits.
Yes.
My last name just happens to start with a T, and I'm super dramatic.
And Kim thinks she's punny, so.
Kim is hilarious. Which is why when she's like, oh my gosh, the HyeJi Tea, and I was like, yes. And then we sat here for 5-10 minutes just chuckling at ourselves and how clever she is.
We are hilarious. This is why we started a podcast, so we could share with the world our hilarity.
So much fun.
With that being said, would you like to share the HyeJi Tea for
I
today?
would love to share the HyeJi Tea. Okay, so follow her on Instagram if you are not already. It's Crazy Ajuma, and there's the underscore in between Crazy and Ajuma. And she has all sorts of random drama that she shares, and I've actually learned a lot about Korean culture through her, and she shared, and it's even been confirmed. So this is why I showed Kim the videos, and we even commented we needed to have a video of Kim's reaction because
I was
roller coaster,
all up and down, all over the place.
It was. We live for the tea.
The HyeJi Tea.
The HyeJi Tea. So the K-pop idol turned actress, Hyeri, I think is how you say her name, and then actor Ru Junyo had been dating. They starred in Reply 1988. I don't remember when that came out, but they dated for 6 years, and then this last year they broke up. So they broke up in 2023, and now granted, when they actually broke up is not actually known, but it was confirmed in November. March 15th, so hello, today, as of the day of a recording.
This is very exciting for us.
Actress Han SoHee, which she's an insanely good actress. She's in so many things. She's in My Name, Nevertheless, Kyongsung Creature. I'm sure there's many more that I'm missing.
She's our Woman Crush Wednesday.
She is so talented. But she and Ru Junyo were rumored to be seen in Hawaii together. And the thing is both of their agencies put out statements that didn't either confirm or deny the rumors and just said they're both on their own private vacation, so respect their privacy. Waving the flag here. That's something to be keeping your eye on.
They can't deny it because it's happening.
It's true. So, despite the breakup that Hyeri and Junyo had gone through, she had still been following him on Instagram. And, she just unfollowed him and then posted a picture with the caption that translates to, interesting or, And it's, palm trees that you would see in Hawaii. And then a couple hours later, Han SoHee posted a picture of a dog that's holding a knife, and
which in and of itself is a little bit unhinged.
I love it. But her caption said, "It seems like it's time to explain now." And she goes on to explain that she does not like people who are in a relationship, who they have a lover, and she doesn't even give them the opportunity to be in a relationship with her, even if it's under the false pretense of being friends. And she ends it with what translates to, "I find it funny or interesting too." Almost like she was throwing shade back at Hyeri. And so
I don't know if I took it as shade, though. I know people are saying that it's shade.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just her acknowledging that, yeah, we're both in an interesting situation. And I would also like to know what is going on.
Yes.
That's how I took it.
I did too.
But other people seem to be making it into something that I don't think it necessarily was.
Well, and what was more interesting is like the other videos that we saw in this, like NBC or something like that, like had a full-on breakdown of the timeline of this other couple's relationship. And then like when Han SoHee and Ru Junyo, like when they started hanging out, and like they had this whole timeline where like, first of all, why is that any of your business?
Well, and blowing things out of proportion, I mean, we know that it sells clicks, it sells magazines.
Absolutely it does.
But it also ruins lives. Hello.
Oh, completely. A little bit later, Han SoHee posted in her own personal blog and confirmed that she and Junyo are dating, that they really like each other, that they didn't start having feelings for each other until this year. So it was way after they broke up, the other couple, we don't know situation. None of our business either. Right. As I'm sitting here talking about it.
Well, I mean, like,
but it's just insane that it's like, okay, this relationship ended. It was confirmed to the public last November,
which is when we started this whole podcast.
Yeah, like, calm down, people. It was 4 months ago. Sit down in your chair and you figure out your love first. Like, calm down. But Han SoHee, she just was like, if you want the truth, I will post nothing but the truth in my blog. I will post my feelings. I'll post the facts. Like, yes, we are dating. And it has nothing to do with their relationship. I was never the other woman. Like, you know what? I'm sorry that it seemed like I was immature. I'll be better about being more mature, which that in of itself is a very mature stance to take. So, yes, that is my tea, is a quote love triangle that doesn't really actually seem to be a love triangle. People
that was kind of how they were selling it to me, or to us, when they posted like these videos of it being a love triangle.
Yeah.
And at first we were like, dang, this is like real life K-drama. But the more we were kind of talking about it, the more it's just like, maybe live and let live.
Maybe calm down. Yeah. But the lady that we watched, Crazy Ajuma, she just was like, you know what? Congratulations.
Yeah,
like,
I loved that she ended it that way.
I hope you have a great relationship. Like, good for you guys. And
and the way they made it sound was that they actually truly broken up at the beginning of 2023, didn't announce it till the end of 2023, and then even after the announcement, that was when Han SoHee had connected with
Junyo,
and then they dated this year.
Yeah, they didn't start dating until
2024. Man, it's just becoming something that
really doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be. Come on, guys. Let's
sit down.
We got more important things to worry about.
Like the fact that they have made a K-drama called Chicken Nugget.
Chicken Nugget. I sent Ashley a video of my TV.
It was so uncomfortable. And here's a side note.
Visceral reactions from both of us.
It was not pleasant. My cat is like the color of a chicken nugget, and I have friends who call her a chicken nugget.
Oh, wait.
So I was just like, it is so weird.
It is on Netflix. It is called
Chicken Nugget.
Chicken Nugget. And the entire sequence that they showed as like the trailer for this, you know how you scroll through Netflix, it'll give you
like little
a preview of a scene. It was this guy sitting on a bench standing next to this woman who has the head of a perfectly round chicken nugget, like a breaded chicken nugget.
Never happens, by the way.
And he is basting her with like sauce to keep her
from like bugs attacking her or something
intact. I don't know.
But they're flirting. And like
it's
she blushes.
It's a very like intimate act, and she was like, you didn't have to get the fancy expensive sauce or whatever, and he's like, but I want to do the best for you. I don't even remember.
It was just very
awful.
Yeah.
I told Ashley I won't even watch this show, ironically.
No.
Now, if any of our viewers have a different opinion of this and have watched this show and it's just like the Lord's gift to K-dramas, I mean, let us know on our Instagram, and maybe we'll have a change of heart. But
when we heard it was coming out, we're like, why?
We did. We talked about this before, didn't we?
We were like, this is what is happening. Because
I think did I send it to you, or did you send it to me? I don't remember.
I found there's this other guy on Instagram who he lives in Australia, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. According to his accent. Yeah. And he and his friends or family, I don't really know, but they kind of spoof K-dramas and be like, K-drama versus reality. And they're hilarious and they're super funny. And they made a spoof of this. And they're like, K-dramas then. And like, okay, what are we going to do? And it's like, okay, we should have a guy that's in the military and he's super into serving his country. And then we should have a doctor. And they meet each other and fall in love. And they're describing Descendants of the Sun, in case you want to know.
Which Ashley's never watched, just to be clear.
Never. Not multiple times. But
wait, you have?
Descendants of the Sun? Oh, yeah. That was one of my first K-dramas.
You said that you never watched it.
No, that was Touch Your Heart.
Continues.
That was Touch Your Heart I had never watched. I thought that was the Taiwanese drama that I had seen. And that's called Fall in Love with Me.
Telling you, I will pull it up right now.
Please,
I am pulling up our very first episode.
One of the first K-dramas I ever watched was Descendants of the Sun.
And then you said last time.
No, that was the Taiwanese one that I thought was Touch Your Heart.
They listen to this and they feel ashamed. I doubt it. They were drunk, so.
Yeah, that's how I got into just Asian.
I didn't start with K-dramas. I started with Taiwanese dramas.
Taiwanese dramas. What was your first drama?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was Touch Your Heart, I think. I was like this, of course, conglomerate guy.
Yes.
So huge.
Everybody has it live.
I just gaslit myself so hard.
No, that's called Fall in Love with Me. I realized that like weeks later.
But then Touch Your Heart was the very first drama you watched.
No, I've never seen Touch Your Heart.
I am so confused.
It's
way too late for us to be recording, guys.
It's fine.
Okay, moving on.
Anyway, Descendants of the Sun. In their spoof, they do K-dramas now, and they're at the drawing board, and he's like, what if we turn somebody into a chicken nugget? And I looked at Kim, and I was like, this can't be real.
And it was.
And it was. And so,
much to our dismay, it's a thing.
Like,
I don't know why.
I have watched so many K-dramas. There's been K-dramas that I have watched that I went, I don't know why I just wasted all those hours. But I did. It's fine. Let's move on with life.
Right.
That is not one that I don't think I'm going to be so inclined to do.
No, I told Ashley I refuse to watch that, even ironically. So we're just, like I said, unless one of our viewers is just so adamant, one of our listeners is just so adamant that it's like amazing, we may change our minds. But you would have to let us know.
And it would have to be multiple people.
You would have to convince us. Okay.
Right, so
I had one more thing I wanted to bring up, though.
Yes, please.
Because, so K-dramas have kind of been taking the world by storm just a little bit. And Disney Plus is actually getting on board with the whole thing because they've
had a few for a while.
Came out and said that of the top 15 highest performing shows they've had, 9 of them were K-dramas.
Yeah,
so
they had several on there.
They are throwing money at this, and they have some pretty big ticket names that are going to be in some dramas that they're pushing out this next year.
Several that are supposed to be just released that I've seen like previews for, and I'm like, I want to watch that, but I don't have Disney Plus access anymore, and it's so sad.
We'll have to have one of our down days where we just watch like Disney Plus dramas.
I am here for it. So here for it.
All right, so on that note, shall we jump into...
You want to do your recap?
Yeah, let's do recap. So, to recap episode 1 of Goblin, our lead, Kim Shin, was murdered by the king for his threat to the throne, and he was murdered in cold blood. Being murdered in cold blood ended up in the creation of the goblin and the goblin sword. So, we meet EunTak, who is the child of a woman that cheated death with the goblin's help. And Green Ripper. Green Ripper.
the Grim Reaper has been hunting her for 19 years, as she used a loophole to escape her appointed hour of death, which was honestly kind of genius. I really liked that writing. I thought that was really well done. EunTak's aunt has been hounding her for a bank book that supposedly has insurance money from the death of EunTak's mother, which EunTak herself has actually never heard of before. We meet Shinwoo and DeokHwa, which are the generational service of
Were you about to say Kim Miso?
I don't know. We meet Shinu and DeokHwa, which are the generational... the generational servants of Kim Shin, or Goblin. The old woman on the bridge that had helped EunTak has become young all of a sudden, and she also sees dead people and knows of the mythical rules and regulations and can apparently look at a Grim Reaper without dying. So that's interesting. Goblin and Reaper have become surprise roommates, thanks to DeokHwa's business dealings. EunTak has met Goblin and asked for a part-time job to be freed from her family and to find a boyfriend. EunTak discovers that she's able to summon Goblin by extinguishing a flame with her breath and begins to see how far her summoning abilities can actually reach, even using a candle app at one point on her phone. EunTak reveals to Goblin that she believes herself to be the Goblin Bride, to which Goblin very cruelly shoots down, which, to be fair, he doesn't really want to get his hopes up. I mean, he's spent however many centuries trying to find this woman, just waiting, longing, suffering, and enduring. But he tries to escape out the library door and into another country, but they quickly learn that EunTak is actually able to perform the same parlor trick and has followed him into Quebec, Canada, which rolls us right into episode 2 of Goblin.
And it picks up right where we left off. If she's looking at him and she goes, "That's it, I've decided. I'm going to marry you. 사랑해요.
I love you."
And he just is like, "Why does she have two heads?" Like, is almost the response he has. He's like, "What just happened? I'm so confused. I'm so lost." And she just tells him, she's like, "Ooh, let's go this way. Let's think of it like our honeymoon." And he's like,
Don't say that too loud.
"Stop talking." Again, how did you follow me here? I don't understand.
Yeah.
He's so confused. But she's
in hog heaven.
She is living her best life. She's taking pictures. She's not even running. She is like flying from one place to the next, just taking in everything. She's living her best tourist life.
If you've ever seen Over the Hedge, it reminds me of the squirrel.
Hammy.
When he is just like, he's found the junk food.
Mm-hmm.
She's just
soda.
Everywhere. Yes.
Yes, she is all over. And he's just like, "Stop. Like, you're going to break something."
He's somewhere between like annoyance and entertainment and confusion and just, he's lost. He doesn't know what's happening.
Right. And she goes into a little Christmas store and the owner there looks at her and he goes, "Merry Christmas." And she just is like, yeah, "Merry Christmas." And just like awkwardly waves like, "Oh, I have to interact."
Yeah, I have to use my English.
But then she goes up to Goblin. She like gives her phone and she's like, "I want you to take a picture." She's starting to explain how to take a picture. And he's like, "Yeah, I know how to do this." And he gets this really awful angle. And you're like, please don't do that to her. That's so mean.
He does.
And she like barely turns around. She's like, "Okay, go 1, 2, 3." And he just takes it. He goes, "I don't want to," and chucks her phone. She's like, "Wait, come back."
I love this next scene though, where she is like frolicking. She is frolicking around these trees, and he's just standing by one, leaning against it, like, "Tell me when I can end it all." And she's going, "I look really natural, right? I don't look like a foreigner traveling for the first time, right?" It's so cute.
No, honey, you don't.
Not at all.
Very much so.
Although, to be fair, that's probably how I looked the first time I was in Korea. So.
How I will look in Peru. But they are walking through a little park area. She's kind of simmered down a little bit. She's not as Energizer Bunny. And, there's leaves falling around them. And she turns and she sees this sign that's like nailed to a tree. And she goes, well, what's that supposed to be? And he goes, that's supposed to be fairies. Like, you're supposed to be able to see fairies there. And she goes, aren't you so lucky? I'm a fairy. Like, I'm Tinkerbell. And he's like, no. Stop talking.
What in the cringe talk are you talking about?
Last episode, she was like, I'm pretty sure I'm a fairy. Like, Tinkerbell. But then she asks him, she's like, do you know what happens if you catch a falling leaf when you're walking? And he's like, no. But as she's like going up to reach for one, he already has his arm up and he's caught one. And she starts to panic a little bit. She's like, no, you need to drop that. Like, get rid of it. She's like, one, give it to me. I want it. He's like, why? And she's like, but like, you need to get rid of it because don't you know that if you catch a falling leaf, when you're walking with someone, you're going to fall in love with them. And he goes, okay, well then why do you want it? And she turns and she points. She goes, because I thought I was walking with that cute oppa over there. And he's like, he turns and she's like, what? She grabs the leaf and she runs up to this guy. And
he just turns and he goes to leave.
And she runs. Ghost! It's a Canadian ghost! And she takes off and he just goes the other direction. Like, I'm not with her. I don't know who she is.
She pivots and she's like, wait for me. And he's like, they're inside this hotel and he goes, if you see ghosts all the time, why are you running away? And she goes, he tried to speak to me in English. That's way scarier. Which, to be fair, if a ghost is trying to speak to me in a foreign language, I'd probably be a lot more scared too.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
It was so cute. She played that so well.
Just actions all around.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All around. The whole time
Kid
that
in
they're
the
there.
candy store. You think about it, given her life, like this is probably one of the very few times that she's been allowed or has allowed herself to be a child.
Fun. Yeah,
like she doesn't get to. She's had everything stolen from her.
Cinderella story, basically.
Nobody loves her in her life.
Aunt and her cousins of do everything.
Well, she's never had anyone to relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this guy to be the one thing that she has been built up her whole life to run toward, you know?
Play a part.
Yeah, have a significant role in. Mm-hmm. She's just like, yeah, I'm figuring it out. Yeah.
Let's go, mister.
Sense of belonging. It matters. Be kind to people. Jerks.
Always.
Just kidding.
But while they're at the hotel, she's like, why are we here? This isn't very appropriate. So she even acknowledges
Glad
that.
she said it because I was about to go off about how freaking weird that was.
And she was like, I'm a high school student. Like, this isn't appropriate. And he was like, no, I want you to rest here. I have something to go do.
Yeah.
Like, not on. She's like, well, okay, well then if you're going to leave, like, just can I have $10? Like, you can abandon me for all I care, but I'm going to need to be able to get to the embassy or call the embassy because I'm here illegally. Like, it's kind of a problem. And he goes, you know what? Just summon me because that'll be faster than going to the embassy. And then he just walks away and she follows him to the door and is like pounding on the window like, wait, please, just $10. I'm not asking for $100. I just need $10. And I'm sure she's hungry.
Yeah, true.
That's what I would be wanting money for. I need a snack.
Right.
As we have a whole bowl full of snacks next to us.
Well, I mean, you can never have too many snacks.
Never.
That's been established well
Always.
over
At least for us.
time cooking together. So Reaper is sitting in like a coffee shop or a restaurant, we don't really know, speaking with a colleague about this, quote, miscellaneously omitted person, unquote.
Well, he's been given paperwork for it.
Yes. And we come to discover that this person's name is neither on the list of the living nor of the dead. Right. And this is kind of goes back to that loophole that we had talked about earlier, where EunTak had not been given a name at the time she was supposed to be reaped.
Yeah.
Therefore, she technically cannot be
taken,
reaped.
Yeah.
Or be allowed to live.
Yeah, she's an enigma.
She is an enigma in and of herself. So,
he even describes a miscellaneously omitted person as God's whims.
As God's whims, yes. Because the Ube, he asks, like, what what do you mean by miscellaneously omitted person? And he just says it's the same thing as a god's whim, basically saying that they want to break the rules.
Right, humans call them miracles.
Yeah. So the Ube is talking to Reaper about how his landlady keeps complaining about dreaming of a Grim Reaper, but he doesn't want to give up his rooftop apartment and move somewhere new. So apparently proximity to a Grim Reaper will cause supernatural things to happen to you.
Well, and he's talking about it because Reaper has just moved, and he's like, are you going to have a house party? And he goes, I'm leasing.
Yeah.
Just like, nope, I can't.
Well, and they just talk about how inconvenient it is that they need to sleep and eat. And I just think it's so funny that they're painting them as normal, like people that work, the grind of the 9 to 5.
Right.
And how life is kind of rough and it's just a job. And I mean, they're literally reaping people's souls. But they're like, man, I got to pay rent. I got to make rent this week.
I've worked overtime so much this week.
And I'm like, who's paying you? Which apparently we get that answered later.
We do. We do.
But two people start to cause a commotion in the doorway of the shop. And they start to fight about an accident. And then the Ube looks at Reaper and says, don't you have to get to work? And so Reaper puts on his hat. He goes over to the pair and informs them that they are dead.
Well, and see, did you notice when watching that the rest of the shop doesn't even acknowledge that there's the fighting going on?
Yeah.
And that's the first inkling that you get of like...
And I did notice, at first I was like, maybe they're just doing the Korean thing where it's like, it's not my business. I'm not going to get involved. Especially because she was talking about being attacked and really serious allegations, things like that.
And him being drunk and driving, and maybe did you hit something?
Yeah, exactly. And so he announces that they're dead and they're taken back to Reaper's tea house. And the woman is offered a cup of tea to forget her life as she was the victim of a hit and run. But interestingly enough, the man is not offered a cup, as this is not his first offense. Yes. And we realize that he is actually the driver who hit EunTak's mother in the hit and run 19 years ago. And the thing that Reaper says to him was very chilling. He says, first, you will regret this moment you couldn't drink the tea. Next, you'll think about why you couldn't drink the tea, and you'll come to a realization that you can't undo this moment, and that you are already in hell. And then he goes on to describe that his body will be ripped to pieces every single day, and he will feel agony and regret for eternity. The woman happily drinks the tea as the man is falling to his knees, begging for his soul. And I'm like, oh. She was so smug.
Oh, yeah. The smirk on her face of like...
That was intense.
It was... You don't want to be in Reaper's bad side.
No.
Especially if you're finding out what your eternity is supposed to look like.
Yeah. So I had that question before of when, he was reaping that first woman from the back of the car in the last episode when she asked what happens if I don't drink, and he says, you'll come to regret it. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to know what you're going to regret.
Right.
But they explained that here pretty well. In
very, very well.
Very vivid detail.
Well, because then he goes on to talk about how he knows of someone who lives his life with all of his memories intact and how that is his hell.
Yes.
And we cut to Goblin, and he is at this little cemetery of sorts. It's not necessarily like
a memorial site,
but like a memorial site, and he is there to pay respects to one, if not all, of the descendants of the young boy that came over with him.
Descendants of the grandson.
Descendants of, that grandson all those years ago. So obviously we know the grandson got saved from episode 1.
Pun.
I was ignoring it.
I know.
But he's like thinking about how painful it is, and we get a flashback to like when they first got there, and like kind of like the life that they had to live, and how the young boy grows up and he's still taking care of him. But then we see, obviously it's been several years because he's in a completely different building now, and he's having a horrible night where the sword is hurting him. Like he's in so much pain. He's like crying, screaming almost, but he can't pull the sword out. So he's just kind of, that's like how it talked about in the first episode of the blood that's been on the sword is just basically there to haunt him. And so he's just looking at it and he's just like, I miss all of you. Like, in spite of all this pain, like, I really miss all of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, because they were people who shared in that with him. They saw him at his lowest lows and his highest highs, and I think that they truly loved him through those moments, as you can see from Shinu's, like, affection for him, saying that, you know, I wished that you would find the Goblin Bride, but at the same time, on nights like these, I'm grateful that you haven't. And he actually returns the sentiment and says, I am too. I enjoy your friendship for one more night. I would choose not to die.
Obviously, there's a love for Goblin from all of those descendants. Every single one of them has loved him as a family member.
Well, and you would, seeing what he does and how he carries himself, and knowing the burden that he has, and that he is still as
genuine,
empathetic, and thoughtful as he is, it would be hard not to feel that way for him. EunTak is wandering around Quebec again. Now she's looking for Goblin, and she sees him standing in front of his friends' graves. He's been sitting with them for pretty much the entire afternoon until the sun goes down. EunTak, she finds a dandelion. She's just kind of watching him from a distance, and she blows on the dandelion, and you see the seeds kind of scatter around Goblin. And he just stayed with his friends until sunset, and then he looks over and sees EunTak and is kind of surprised that she's there. But they go out and they are walking together after dark, and they're trying to feel each other out a little bit more, I think.
Right. Well, because right before that, she looks at all of the stones.
Right, and introduces herself.
And, well, she pays her respects as well. She was just like, you know, you served him well, and then looks at what is supposed to be his memorial stone.
From a past life.
From one of them. But there's no name on it. And
it says he died in 1891 or something like that, or 1801. It was sometime a long time ago.
Long time ago. And she's just like, you know, this is my name. This is who I am. I'm going to be your bride in 200 years. And he goes, no, you're not. She's like, or maybe not. And she looks at the little picture and just like, you know, you're still as dashing today as you were then, which means you've grown up well. Clearly, you've stayed on the right path.
Well, and I think she's just intrigued by the fact that he is this very powerful being that takes the time to stop and remember. Because that seems kind of unique.
Yeah.
To value, like, human life when he's called her so insignificant. I think that maybe patched up that wound a little bit.
just a touch.
Just a bit. Maybe that he's, you know, hiding something. But during their conversation, though, we find out that the hotel was actually the original place of his home the first time that he was in Quebec. And it was a small little shack or a cabin or something like that. And then each time he's returned, it's been a little bit bigger, until now there's this hotel standing there. And she just stops and she's like, too bad you didn't purchase the land way back then, because you could have had this giant hotel. And he just looks at her and she goes, no way, it's yours. What? And he just sits there and stares at her, and he neither confirms nor denies this being his hotel. But she realizes that she has missed school. She's trying to figure out what time it is.
He tells her, don't you think you're late?
Yeah.
She's like, for what? Wait, what time is it back home?
Yeah,
like,
she's got to get back to Korea.
Well, I love her question. She's like, do you think it would just be better to live as an illegal immigrant than to be tardy?
If that is not, like, high school in a nutshell. Everything feels like the end of the world. You're like, I've messed up today. I'm just going to change my name and leave forever.
It's fine.
There's no going back.
Don't do that. It's really not that big of a deal, I promise.
It's not, no. But they actually exit out what looks like maybe the embassy or some type of big old
building.
Yeah, it's very big, very political looking. Anyway, so she thanks Goblin for the trip and then just kind of scurries off down the road towards school.
Well, and then we get to her homeroom teacher ripping her a new one. Like, what, you think you're a senior so you can be late and you can do whatever you want? And why do you think you can act this way? You haven't been accepted into a college yet. And she's like, I'm going to go to like, I'm going to go to college. She's like, okay, well, good for you then. She's just being really horrible.
Yeah.
And then she gets a phone call, and I don't remember the student's name, but it's one of EunTak's classmates, her mom. And she's like, oh, so-and-so's mom, it's so good to hear from you, and just kind of gives this nasty look to EunTak. So you're like, clearly...
Well, she's saying to her, I get you had a bad life experience, but you don't get to use that as your fallback all the time. It's like, hello.
You're part of that bad experience.
Yeah, you're... Anyway. It's fine.
So after her long day, she's sitting at a bus stop, and it's raining again. But she's looking at this travel book that she had picked up while she was in Quebec. And in it, she puts the leaf that Goblin had caught. And she's listening to like a podcast or a radio station or something. And it was like, do you have somebody that's your umbrella? And she just kind of like thinks back of like, maybe this person could be someone that can protect me from things, especially the horrible things that I deal with all the time. And so she just puts that little leaf in the little booklet and just kind of like, and that had to be such a healing moment for her too, just to be like, this was just, I didn't know that I could have this type of opportunity even, and I don't, maybe I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Other than the ghosties that
Torment
jump in front of me.
Goblin summons Reaper outside of the house. And out the door, Goblin exits, and he exits out into this cabin into the countryside, which is that field that he was killed in. And he turns around and he waits. And then Reaper goes out the door, and it's just the front of the house. And in Korea. And so Reaper's just like, okay.
You asked for my help.
And Goblin goes back in through the cabin and goes back out the front door in Korea. And he had been testing to see if Reaper was going to be able to follow him through the door like EunTak had. And then he was like, she must be the only one who's able to do it. He can't do it. He goes, can't do what? Who did what?
I'm going to do it again.
Do it again. And he stands like right behind him and says it in his ear, like his lips are touching his ear. And he goes, do it again. This time I'll stay even closer. And then Goblin is just like, get away from me.
No.
Get lost. Kojo, get lost. Goodbye. I felt your lips on my earlobe.
You're too close.
It gave me good and bad and crazy vibes when they're in the back of that truck.
Yes. Why are you looking?
He's like, why are you taking off your pants? I loved that.
Well,
scene.
and because he's just like, I'm competitive. Like I need to do this too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Goblin goes inside and just like, get away from me.
Yeah.
And as Reaper goes to go follow him, DeokHwa calls and he's like, Tenant, are there any problems? Like, I need you to let me know if there are. Also, like, is there anything going on in the house? Like, do you notice if, like, temperature changes or if lights flicker? And he's, like, trying to feel out to see if he notices that his uncle
is Goblin.
Not knowing that
he's
he is
invited
a Grim
Reaper into his house.
So then he's just like, okay, well, I'm probably going to be here pretty often, like, in and out. So I need to figure out what to call you. I can't just call you Tenant. He's like, I can't call you Uncle. That's too close. Like, no. And so he's like, settles on Uncle down the hall. All right. But then he goes, so if there's ever an older man that comes by, can you please just pretend that you're visiting? And he's like, why? He's like, because that's my grandpa. And then just turns around and walks away. And he's just like, why are you dragging me into this? This is no.
Yeah, Reaper's like, I don't have time for you to be
so childish.
Yes. I love, though, that he's, like, trying to establish this relationship with him because he's like, somewhere down the line, my uncle's leaving. I'm probably going to need bailed out by some rich, good-looking guy, and I'd really like it if you could be that guy.
I need you. Samchan.
Oh, goodness. Oh, but the interesting thing, though, was when he went to, like, pat him on the shoulder, he was just, like, matrixed out of the way.
Yeah.
And so I wondered if that was a Reaper thing, where if you, like, touch a Reaper, it could kill you. I know you're not supposed to make eye contact.
Not eye contact, but he even is like, oh, so you really don't like
to be touched.
Physical contact. Yeah. Okay. Same. Hi.
I'm sure that at some point EunTak will end up in his arms. Anyway, she's just laughing over there. So EunTak is at school hoping that this door trick is gonna work again, and so she's like standing outside a bathroom and has her hand she has her hand on the door handle, and she's like, okay, Canada, it's gonna be Canada, and she opens the door and doesn't find Canada, but she does find the school restroom with the woman in the red dress from the bridge that was previously the old woman from the bridge, who gifts EunTak a bag of spinach and tells her to make sure to share it with her family. And I was thinking in this moment, I was like, going to not see her family for a very long time. Mysterious bag of spinach that she said to make sure to share with her family from the freaky old lady who's not a freaky old lady anymore. It's just a freaky young lady.
Well, episode 1, her mom asks her
to give her
cabbage
things.
and spinach.
Yeah! Okay.
So there's your spinach.
Thank you.
But also, one of my favorite things about that interaction is the now young woman just looks at EunTak and she goes, "Senior?" She goes, "What?" She's like, "School uniform, dead fish eyes typically means you're a senior."
Eyes.
And
Yes.
that made me laugh so hard because I was like, man, yeah, that's what seniors look like. You are just so done.
Yep.
You have nothing left to give, especially as you get closer to the end of the year and you're just like...
You have to walk this weird line of being an adult and being a child.
Because you're still stuck going to school. You have no choice.
But you're supposed to be making all these life decisions for yourself.
Right.
But you still have to ask to use the bathroom. Anyway, it's fine.
Trauma.
Seriously. I actually don't think that I realized she recognized EunTak until you said the thing about the spinach. Because I was like,
that's a random
thing
to give.
I still have not figured out if she is inherently a good character or inherently a bad character. Right. Especially because of the red. Because red usually signals like death. It is not always a good thing
to see, yeah.
And so...
That's why you don't write your name in red ink.
Yeah. And so I just haven't quite deducted whether or not I like her or not, which was why I was like, do I want her to know it's EunTak or do I not want her to know it's EunTak? You know what I mean?
That's fair.
But the fact that she tells her to make sure to give her family the spinach, and I was like, are we gonna poison them?
What?
And is she also going to be okay if she eats the spinach?
Yes.
So she gets ready to prepare. EunTak goes home, gets ready to prepare dinner for her aunt's family. And they're complaining about how she can't just stay out later. We have to deal with you being home all the time. We don't want to look at you.
But also make us dinner.
But make us dinner as they're watching TV. And so EunTak goes to the fridge. It's pretty much bare bones aside from a few vegetables. And she glances over and sees the spinach and thinks, okay, I can make kimbap. I can make vegetable kimbap. And EunTak's cousin, the girl cousin, has found the magazine of Quebec in her room and accuses her of trying to leave to go abroad. And I'm just like, do you just go through her things regularly?
Probably.
Is this a regular occurrence? Because EunTak didn't seem surprised about it, but she was really panicky. And the aunt just starts to go to town to her, like, you think you're better than us, that you get to leave and take all this money that you're hiding from us.
This is how you're going to repay me.
Yeah. For what? For years of trauma and bullying?
Abuse?
Literal physical abuse.
Because she has that little book, because that's basically, it's like a magazine, and she is smacking the crap out of her.
Yes.
And then, because then her girl cousin was like, wow, this is how she's celebrating. She just only made us kimbap.
I know.
Rude.
Okay, but it gets weird here because she goes to cut the kimbap and very, very clearly does it successfully, doesn't get her fingers, right? And then all of a sudden she starts to cry that her finger is bleeding. But here I was thinking like, oh crap, is the spinach like razor sharp? And she like sliced her finger on it. And then you see the guy cousin go to take a bite and I'm like, he's dead. If there's razor blades in the spinach, this guy's gone. But he does. He starts to choke on the kimbap. And EunTak and her aunt are like going rounds over the magazine at this point.
Right.
And she's not really paying attention to the two that are a mess on the ground. But she grabs her magazine, grabs the kimbap off the counter, and just leaves and lets them be
The chaos.
psychos. Yeah.
I think that's what the spinach was for, was to cause some type of a commotion.
To let her
have a
leave.
break.
Yeah. But she goes and she cries on a pedestrian bridge somewhere. And it was really sad.
It was sad.
Clearly the spinach was only harmful to them because she is eating that
Just
kimbap
fine.
without any issues.
And she's
So-
looking at the little Quebec book, just like,
and her leaf.
I want to go back.
Yeah, thinking about her time with Goblin and just the joy she experienced, however fleeting it was, but wishing she could go back to that.
Well, and while this is going on, Goblin is laying on his bed. And it's like he's
Like
not
thrashing.
well, he's not like trying to go to sleep or anything. It's just like he's laying there and he's just like, how can she do this? Like, how can she summon me? How can she follow me through this door? Like,
How does she see dead people?
Yeah, she doesn't see the sword though. So like, why is this? And he finally just sits up and he goes, curiosity will always beat dignity.
Well, he starts to panic because he's thinking that if she truly meant what she said when she said, I love you, it could be awkward for
It could be
everyone.
real bad.
Yeah. And so, like you said, he decides to go ask her.
Because he's like, I need to know the answers now.
Mhm.
Like, how are you able to do this? This is not anything I've ever experienced before. And so he is just like chilling by her door. I don't know how you found that, dude. It's not like she's called you to her house. But it's somewhere in her neighborhood, at least, if it's not her door. And because EunTak has been walking, and she's been walking in circles for a while because she's just like trying to kill time.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks up and she sees Goblin standing there, and the act that he puts on is hilarious because he just acts all in a huff, like, why would you summon me? Like, we just saw each other. She's just like,
I didn't.
I didn't do that though. And he's like, well, were you thinking of me? And she was like, yeah, I guess. He's like, well, I'm really sensitive to that, so you need to be aware. He's like, so, like, why were you thinking of me? And she's like, well, I was thinking of Canada, and it was, it was really pretty. It seemed like a nice place to live. But then, like, it seemed like you had everything there. Like, you had nice clothes, you had a place to stay, like, you have the hotel. You have everything, but you seem so sad. She's like, that's kind of just, like, where my mind went. And then I just love, he's just like, well, why are you going around in circles? You look suspicious.
Not as suspicious as you showing up outside of a high schooler's house in the middle of the night, sir.
You weirdo.
You wackadoodle. But they go for a walk.
Mm-hmm. Well, because she tells him, I'm waiting for them to fall asleep
Mm-hmm.
so that I can go to sleep, and then I'll get up and I'll, like, get out and I don't have to deal with them.
Yeah.
Which is
Sad. You know she's done
horrible.
this song and dance many, many times to
Well, and-
avoid the abuse.
when you're young or not, you need sleep
Mm-hmm.
in order to function. Her life is already a nightmare. You're taking away her chance to actually rest properly
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, they go for a walk, and he tells her, I'm walking because I am not able to digest what I ate earlier. And she's like, yeah, you've said that like 3 times. Like, you can go, like, you can leave. This is not a big deal to me. And he's like, yeah, you've already said that already too. So clearly they just don't know how to
B. They're socially awkward.
They are socially awkward.
I mean, she's had no friends, and all of his have died, so.
well, and you said earlier that he's walled himself off.
He has, yeah.
So social interactions. DeokHwa even apologizes for that at one point. I'm so sorry, he doesn't know how to act socially.
But something a bit sinister happens. There's a student that sees them walking together, and she starts to text the group chat saying that, oh, she does have a sugar daddy after all. It's this ajashi who's like in his 30s. I'm going to take a photo to prove it to you all. And all of a sudden, the car that she's standing next to, the door just like swings open and like booty bumps her over, and she misses her opportunity for a photo. And she gets up in a huff. She is ready to like
Throw
go
hands.
to town on that person. And the car is empty. And she just looks at it and she's like, I'm out. Goodbye.
And then the door shuts.
She just like leaves in a daze of, I don't know if I just imagined that. That would be safer than the alternative.
She's just like, Oma.
I know.
Oma. So next day, EunTak walks into a chicken shop, and there's this woman sitting at the table, and she's, do you have takeaway? And she goes, no, I'm here to see about the part-time job that's being posted. Can I talk to the owner? And she's like, yeah, she's here. And she just does her. She's gorgeous. She's so pretty. Because even EunTak's just like,
there's like this pretend breeze that blows through the shop and makes her hair just like billow out, and she has these like superstar model looks on her face, and she's looking over her shoulder like, I know I'm beautiful, you can tell me.
She is, though.
I was just like, okay, that's weird.
Love her, though. We will love her, I promise.
Okay.
So she has EunTak sit down, and EunTak's just like, I can meet all your expectations, like, I'll go above and beyond.
I'm desperate.
Completely. And she's just like, okay, you can work here.
I don't have customers. My shop is struggling. I am also desperate.
And then
I just love the brutal honesty with one another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You usually try to keep up like the pretense of, I don't know if we need, but we could probably make space, and oh yeah, I have other offers, but I could probably make time. And they're just both like, yeah, I don't have anything going on, and you're pretty much all that I have left. So
she's like, are you poor? And she goes, yeah. Okay. Starting today is our day one.
Yeah.
Like, yes, please. I want to be your friend. If that's how easy it is to be your friend, let's go.
Right.
But EunTak is so excited, and on her way home, she decides, she's like, I need to tell Goblin now, like, so she's...
To thank him.
Summons him, and he's holding his fork, and he's starting to take a bite of steak, and he just realizes that he is not home anymore. He goes, can't you call and make appointments like a civilized person? She's like, well, you didn't come when I thought of you, so...
Because that was the excuse he used earlier, was that just thinking of him would...
When she's like, yeah, I thought of you, and she's like, but I promise I'll see you every day in the future.
I love you.
just how, like, cute she gets with that, because it's just like, if I say this and act cute enough, I can get away
with
any crazy behavior that...
yanking him out of his reality over and over and over again.
Well, and he just stares at her, takes a bite of his steak, and turns around.
And leaves.
And disappears.
I love this moment. Goblin walks through the front door, and you just see Reaper watching TV. Goblin just kind of like huffs past him, super frustrated with everything. Holding his fork. And Reaper is just like, does the little twirl around his ear like this guy is off of his rocker. And we cut away. Reaper is crawling into bed now, and Goblin just like busts in, and he goes, this outfit is better, right? I need to look more intellectual and put together, since I know she's gonna summon me again, and I want to be ready this time. And I'm like, what?
Well, because Reaper's response is, why? And he's like, she's gonna keep summoning me. If you help me, it means I leave you alone.
Yeah.
Basically, and he's like, gives him the double thumbs up. So handsome, you look so good. And he goes, that means it's not the right outfit.
He is not satisfied with that answer, and he starts to return with different props. He has like records and paintings.
Books.
Yeah. And so
I'm trying to give off that I know about impressionism
and postmodernism or something. I don't know. He like, I mean, these are huge paintings. These are the size of doors.
Yes.
They are not little paintings that you just casually hold in your hand.
Poor Reaper.
He's trying to get them through the door. But he goes away and comes back, and he starts to give Reaper a hard time about how he sleeps, because he comes back, the covers are over his head.
It's almost like vampire with the arms crossed.
Well, Goblin goes to reach and pull the covers back with this weird look on his face, and you're thinking, maybe when Reapers sleep, they look scary. And so he, like, pulls it back. And then, like you said, there's Reaper, like, hand over his chest like he's in a coffin. And he's like, this is how you sleep? And Reaper goes, could you just leave me alone?
Please.
It's comfortable.
And he's like, why does your room feel like it's a morgue? Like, it's like somebody dead. Do you need some wreaths in here? Like...
But we cut to the next morning, and Reaper sits up, and Goblin has swapped out his beautiful white comforter set for a old lady quilt, like this red old lady quilt with a flower pattern on it, and put a silk bonnet on his head.
When he changed the lamps in his room.
Yes, he did. And he is so done. So to get his revenge, he comes into the kitchen with this laundry basket
And sings the best song ever.
and just starts to mock
Goblin's
Goblin's undies.
underwear is sturdy. It's sturdy.
It's stretchy.
When he's like dancing. And Goblin's like, stop. And he goes, Goblin's underwear is dirty. It smells and it's dirty. And he's like, quit. And he's like, what, did you do something manly?
It's
getting
like
all in his face.
it's like two kindergartners that are arguing over, I don't know.
Well, and Goblin just lets it get under his skin so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Stop it! Oh, I didn't know that was your song. If I had known, I wouldn't have sung it, but it's so catchy.
It was so funny. But we cut away, and it is like a news anchor talking about this huge, heavy thunderstorm that is raining down on the city.
Mm-hmm.
And you see people with umbrellas. Cars are kind of getting caught in the I want to say mirage.
Oh, what is that word?
Is it Durage?
I don't know, my brain quit working
In the
an
rain.
hour ago. Barrage.
Barrage,
We got there.
rain.
Woo!
We are one brain cell together. Okay. But DeokHwa actually goes to check on Goblin because of this weather. He's like, I saw it was kind of crappy out, and
You okay?
figured you were having a bad day. Are you doing okay, bud? And Goblin is not having a good day. He is laying in his bed, like in fetal position, and decides to tell DeokHwa, though, about his fate.
His family secret.
And his family secret, yeah. DeokHwa already knew all of this.
Mhm.
He's like, bro, I knew this from the time I was 8. Just kidding. I knew when I was 6. And Goblin is like, wait, what?
How?
And he goes, you would get drunk and show me, like, stacks of gold, and then you would do things like this, and Goblin's just, like, casually levitating above his bed as they're having this conversation. He's like, and you really expected me not to know? And he goes, you knew, and yet you spoke so casually to me all of this time, saying things like, yeah, and,
Yeah?
know,
And he's like, yeah?
yeah, exactly.
I love DeokHwa. He's so funny.
I still haven't decided if he's off of my You're a Punk list or not, but he's slowly charming me.
He's very entertaining.
He is.
So at the chicken shop, EunTak is working hard. She's, making sure everything's clean. And her boss is just like, go home, go play hooky. No one's coming anyway because of the rain. Like, meh, it's fine, whatever. And she's like, no. Like, if the boss is away, that means I still need to work hard. And she's like, no, you go play if your boss tells you to go play. Like, just
Be a teenager
Go
in
have
this
fun.
moment, please.
And she's like, best boss ever. You're so cool. But her boss goes to a fortune teller. And, the fortune teller asks her, is everything okay? And she's like, well, isn't that your job to know? I really just love how, like, straight she is with this woman.
she's a straight shooter.
And she's like, oh, well, okay, so, no husband, no kids. And she's like, uh-huh. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Like, but she ends up telling her that she needs to be careful of a man wearing a very black hat. And she just kind of leans in and puts her hand, like, her chin on her hand, and is just like, I wish that hat-wearing man was handsome. You know what? Get it, girl. I don't blame you. Same.
Priorities.
Absolutely.
This is the moment, though, where I'm like, she's mythical.
The shop owner?
Mm-hmm. She must have a role.
No, I mean, she's a main character, so.
I mean, she's weirdly pretty,
Yeah.
weirdly unsuccessful, and now her
Highly
fate,
unsuccessful.
and her, well, I mean, pretty people are successful in Korea.
Right.
You know what I mean? People would go to that shop just to look at her.
Because she's so pretty.
It would be full of teenage boys.
Absolutely.
And so either she just didn't cook when people showed up, or, like, you know what I
Has
mean?
really bad luck.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, her whole circumstance, real sketch.
Something's gonna happen there.
And the thing that I don't know is whether or not she knows that she's mythical.
Okay. I like it.
Okay, moving on.
Well, we cut to after she talks about her hat-wearing man hoping that he's handsome. We see Reaper picking up his black hat and is like, I need to go get this dry cleaned. And Goblin, of course, responds with, yeah, we have a really ugly hat. And it must be a joke so that people can laugh on their way out.
He's ruthless.
He's so funny. So Reaper leaves and Goblin is sitting on this little like bookshelf kind of area, and he picks up like an album and a book, and he's sitting there like he's patiently waiting to be summoned.
Posed. He is posed.
So posed. And
he is pretending I'm studying in a coffee shop, hoping a cute guy will walk by posed.
oh, I miss those days. But at this time, EunTak is laminating that leaf that she got in Canada, and you know, there's this other high schooler sitting across from her. She's like, are you sure you don't need to use an iron, like, to get that laminated? She's like, oh, no, it's totally fine. Like, we press this down. It'll be good. And the student asks her, well, why are you doing that? She's like, well, because I have somebody to give it to. She goes, oh, you have a boyfriend. She's like, no, this is just a thank you for, you know, an experience that I got to have. And so she's at, like, a park, or just like a little seating area, and she gets her leaf ready and she blows out a match and she's waiting for Goblin to show up, and she sees a shadow and looks up, and Grim Reaper is standing right in front of her, and she just like pauses for a second. She goes, my scarf. And he's like, yeah, I know who you are. And she's like, I need to go lock up my shop, like my boss is gonna be really upset with me. And he's just like, yeah, you know, there's no point. We've already made eye contact.
And you're using the same excuses that you did 10 years ago.
Right. And she's like, okay, but the thing is like, my name's not on a list and I'm too young. Like, you can't take me. And he goes, yeah, but your name's on a different list. You know, there's a lot of paperwork that I have to do, but I can.
Well, he says some die at 9, some die at 10, but that's just the way death is.
Sad but true.
Like, 19 is nothing.
Yeah, it happens
me.
all the time.
Yeah.
But then he just goes, who's with you this time? And Goblin is standing there. And EunTak, of course, she doesn't know that they know each other.
Right.
And her first priority is, you can't make eye contact. And she just runs and stands. And he's significantly taller and just, like, covers his eyes. And she's like, don't make eye contact. That's a Grim Reaper. Like,
and he's
stop.
kind of just like, are you dumb?
Yeah, but I also think it's just kind of like a little bit of like a, why are you know what this means, seeing a Grim Reaper?
I
why
think
are you
it
trying
turned
to protect?
I think it turned into that, but at first
Right.
he's just like, what are you doing?
Stop.
Get your grimy little hands out of my face. But I think he's moved by her concern for him.
Well, just to protect somebody that may not know. She doesn't know what he knows. Like the extent of his knowledge of anything. So she's just like, you can't make eye contact because he will be able to get you.
And I think that what shows like his being moved by her consideration is the fact that rather than just like push her hands out of the way, he grabs her hand and pulls it to his side and pulls her behind him, like in a form like to show protection of her from Reaper. But he tells her then that he tells Reaper that she can't be taken away since she is a goblin bride.
Well, not just that, like, you can't take the one who's willing to
marry
the
a goblin
in front of the goblin. And then in the background there's thunderstorm brewing.
Yeah. Well, and then we hear a siren sound off nearby, and we realize that Reaper actually wasn't there for her. He just happened upon her, and that was his appointment, was that siren.
Right.
And so it needs his attention, but he promises that this isn't over.
They will have a conversation about this.
Yes. The hilarious thing is the fact that they are roommates, and they've got to go have that awkward interaction later of what just happened out there, sir. We have jobs to do.
And some of this conversation they are having in their minds with each other. So EunTak has no idea what is going on, other than they're just staring at each other like almost like a come at me, bro, see if you can like try this.
Yeah.
But then
Reaper's gone,
and Goblin just looks at UnTak and he's like, okay, I know you have stuff to say, like, what is it? And she's like, you're a liar. You've lied to me so many times. He's like, the first time, like, I didn't know if I was gonna see you again. She's like, yeah, but I kept asking, so you suck.
Yeah. Well, he still insists that she won't be the Goblin Bride. And then she is so heartbroken, like utterly heartbroken by this statement. And then she says, who am I then if I'm not the Goblin Bride? Like, her life is barely worth living, and she's being tormented by ghosts. And then she goes, did you say you're not the Goblin because I'm not pretty? And he says, no, you're pretty. I've lived over 900 years. I'm not worried about pretty. I'm not looking for pretty. I'm looking for something else.
Someone who can discover something in me.
And then he just announces that he's about to leave. So it's all kind of, there's no point because I'm leaving Korea anyway.
Right.
You can't follow me there. And she is so hurt by this, to the point she vows to never see him again.
I mean,
to be fair, he did lie to her.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But she does look back as she huffs away and he's already disappeared. And she's like, wow, you really suck, dude.
Kinda. But again, like, we've established, maybe not just yet, but we do establish at some point that he's been burned by the idea of having found his bride multiple times. And then none of them are able to see the sword and remove it. So he's had his hopes dashed repeatedly. And he's really not looking to involve this 19-year-old girl in that
heartbreak
false fantasy, or, you know.
Well, Goblin gets home, and Reaper is waiting for him, and goes, so are you going to die soon? Because he knows that he has to have the sword pulled out of him. And so Goblin's just like, no, she can't see the sword. And they both kind of just go on with their lives, and we don't know how long it is. But while they're going on with their lives, UnTak decides to do what she calls a background check on her boyfriend.
This is so cute.
And she's looking at storybooks and fairy tales. A little girl comes up to her and she's like, aren't you too old to be reading that? She's like, oh, I'm doing my background check. And she's like, well, if he's in a fairy tale, wouldn't it be like a knight or something? She goes, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I wish. And instead, this little girl hands her a book on goblins.
It says Colorful Goblin.
And so she, is looking at it, and then she just gets annoyed, and she's looking at the leaf, and she places that leaf in one of the books, and then goes to put everything away. And the book that had the leaf in it, she'd put on the shelf, and somebody else walks up and grabs the book. And we don't know who it is. We just see a hand and an arm.
I just had a theory.
Ooh, okay.
Continue.
Okay. So we're back at Goblin's house, and he's just kind of chilling, and it's like it's supposed to be like kind of like a corridor to a greenhouse type of situation. It doesn't seem like fully indoor or fully out. We don't.
Like a breezeway almost.
Yeah. And he sees smoke, and so he like looks down at his hands like
anticipating.
Am I gonna be called? And
kind of excited about it.
Yeah, he's like, okay, she doesn't completely hate me.
Yeah.
And then realizes smoke is not coming from him. And he looks, and there's another puff of smoke that just comes out. And he goes around the corner, and his nephew, DeokHwa, is smoking a cigarette. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, it's fine. You used to smoke. And he goes, yeah, 350 years ago. He's like, I'm sorry. And just puts out the cigarette, and he's like, I need to get out of this situation before I get beat.
He is wearing a very unique shirt, which we saw moments earlier in the library, removing a book from the shelf. And now my theory is that this line of people have been blocking Goblin from finding his true love so that he continues to live forever.
Ooh, I like that theory. A lot. That's fun.
I'm trying to read your facial expressions.
But I told you if I just smile.
That's my theory for the day. is that they're actually trying to prevent him from being able to move on.
Okay.
Well, would he have to leave?
Well, he's throwing a fit. Goblin is in his house.
He is. He's throwing a tantrum.
Straight up, there are fog everywhere. There are clouds in the room that he's in. They're just kind of like floating up and down. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like a dehumidifier or a few of them. The DeokHwa is like...
Or something to like attract the lightning.
Or just like he's like, Uncle, come on. And Reaper walks up and he's wearing the silk bonnet again on his head.
I love it.
And he's like, Uncle down the hall, what are you doing? He notices, rips it off, and he just steps closer to Goblin. He goes, like he's gonna say something snarky. He just goes, oh, is that a cumulus cloud? Like, oh, is that what that is? Oh, okay. And, like, we hear, like, thunder rumble a little bit. And DeokHwa's like, please don't make it rain in the house. Like, who's going to clean this up?
Yeah, exactly.
You need to take a breath. And
Reaper helps with his little comment, asking, oh, did you fight with your wife? Did you do something wrong? And he goes, what? What would I have done wrong? What did I do wrong? A little defensive there, Goblin.
A little touchy there, buddy.
Gobby gobs.
Gobby gobs. So they, are giving him a hard time. And between Reaper and Goblin, they are just, like, going back and forth about, like, I can see the future. Yeah, well, I can see their past. I can see, they're just going back and forth. And he's like, both of them, Reaper and DeokHwa just look at Goblin and just like, apologize for what you said. You clearly made her mad. Whatever it is, just apologize. And then DeokHwa pushes a little bit farther and he's like, apologize, give me my credit card.
Apologize, give a ring, apologize, give a purse, apologize, give the credit card.
And Goblin's just like, get out. Leave.
He doesn't even say that. It just like
slice your throat.
Cuts off. And then you see DeokHwa like roped, hogtied to a pillar in the house. He's like, please let me go.
Please. So Goblin is wearing a coat. He's looking like he's about to step out, and Reaper's doing the same. He's grabbed his hat, and they ask each other where they're going, and so Goblin's like, I'm going to the supermarket. And he's like, where are you going? And Reaper's like, dry cleaner, because my hat is dry cleaner only. And he's like, okay, well, good luck, like, have fun. And we cut to what we now, like, we've learned is EunTak's house.
Mm-hmm.
And the Reaper has gone inside, and Goblin has burst through the gate, and they find each other there, and he's like, well, that's not the supermarket. And he goes, yeah, this isn't the dry cleaners either. And he's like, well, where is she? And he goes, I don't know, did you take her away? And Goblin goes, did you kill her? And Reaper's like, no, where did you put her? And they're just like,
neither of them
have a clue. I was coming here to tell her to move, like.
So EunTak is going around town knocking on brick walls to find somebody.
Mm-hmm.
When a stone is thrown at her feet, and she finds the woman from the street when she was walking home from school, the ghost that appeared right before she met Goblin for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then she asks the ghost why she said that she was the Goblin bride. And the girl there says that she'd heard it from an old woman with a dialect. And she learned, which I don't know, if you don't know what a dialect is, there are different regional ways of speaking in Korea. And so the dialect that they're I'm going to guess they're talking about is one that's from Busan. That's one of the most prominent ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a more abrupt way of speaking. And it's one of those dialects where it makes a guy sound tougher and it makes a pretty girl sound cuter to like someone who speaks in Seoul.
Who they don't have a dialect
Who don't
necessarily.
have the dialect, yeah. So, Actually, one of the things that some of my friends from Korea told me is that when I spoke Korean, when I was learning it there, was that I spoke with a natural Busan dialect. And I'm just like, I don't know what that means, but I will take your word for it.
Cool. Sweet.
Cool. And now I probably don't have any of that anymore.
So I need to move to Busan. You come with me.
But the woman with the dialect, she is sitting on this step talking with EunTak, who's sitting below her. And there's the girl from the wall and then two other girls that are sitting there. And they're all just sitting talking. And the old woman, she is telling EunTak about how she learned that the goblin had saved EunTak's mother on that day, and the Grim Reaper had showed up to no one. And then, at some point, or EunTak starts to say, you know, I have no right to be angry. Without him, I couldn't have even been born.
Right, if he hadn't saved my life.
I really should not have treated him the way I treated him. And then at some point, I don't remember what happened, how he arrived here, but the girl from the wall starts to say, why don't you just come with me? It starts acting like the Grudge.
Just come with me. Keeps reaching her hand out to grab
and
her.
Ajima just like whacks her, like, stop, what are you doing?
And every time she reaches her hand out, she just like knocks her in the head again or knocks her hand down.
That was so
She's like, will you knock it off?
I love it.
But while all this is going on, Goblin is actually quite a ways back, but he's seeing this conversation. So he at least knows that she is safe right now. And I think he's almost okay with just leaving her with the ghosts because they're going to look out for her because
they think she's the Goblin Bride.
Right. So next day-ish, probably, we don't have a specific timeline, EunTak's aunt has walked into her workplace and is demanding to know why, where her niece is and who gave permission for her niece to be working there. And asks to see the owner, and the owner stands up and she's like, yeah, that's me. Are you wanting to order?
Well, here's the interesting, nuance to this, and I picked some of this up from your Simple Guy, on Insta, but,
love him.
The aunt refers to her as agashi, which is a way to refer to a young woman in society. Yeah. But because this is a class, classes in society are based upon age, this is actually a way to look down on someone by referring to them as agashi. So this was the aunt's way of placing herself above this store shop owner by saying, you're young, you're stupid, you don't understand,
you don't know anything
a lot, therefore I'm talking down to you. And so that was just one of those nuanced things that I thought was interesting, having just recently learned about it. I would have never caught on to that. I thought akashi was a polite way to refer to someone, because in the United States, you refer to someone as young woman, that can be a compliment. There's obviously ways to use it in a derogatory sense where
absolutely,
you're so young, you don't understand,
you don't know any better.
For the most part, though, most people use it in a polite way, oh, she's a young woman. It's a way to say that you look good for your age, or
young lady,
right? But not in Korea, because of the age, the level of respect.
The older you are, the better it is.
Right. The older you are, the more respect, the higher your position in that social situation is. So I just thought that was interesting. But anyway.
Well, but then she has a little bit of a change when she finds out that is the owner, because you have to respect the person that
has the information you want.
Yeah, in charge. And she's just like, shouldn't your precious niece be at school right now? Why aren't you going there or calling there? She's like, there's too many people. You just need to work with me. She was like, okay, well. Goes and picks up her phone, makes a phone call, and she goes, hi, Oppa. How are you? Are things going well? Question, do you still beat up people? What about old ladies? Gender equality, that means nothing to you? Okay, cool, great. And her aunt's just like, I'm leaving. You see me walking out the door, I'm going away.
Goodbye.
And the other person, the person on the other end of the line is just like, what are you doing? Your dialect is horrible. She's like, oh, sorry, are you good? Okay, bye. Love her for this, because she's like, I don't have to tell you anything. One, you clearly are a crazy person.
So I'm going to match your crazy?
Yeah, but I'll probably be better at it. But the aunt gets home, and two guys come in after her, and they are loan sharks, and they're like, you owe us money, and you are so far behind. And she's like, you know, like, I need that bank book. I need that bank book to pay you back. And they're like, you've been talking about this for so long that we don't believe you. You know what? We should go for a drive. We could go up to this mountain. Wouldn't that
the
be
one
great?
henchman picks up a garden spade and, like, holds it threateningly at her head.
Well, and they even tell her, like, the only thing alive about you is your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Which you just run your mouth.
You're not wrong.
Well, then the aunt just is like, no, the thing is there is a bank book. There is money. There's about $150,000 of insurance money because of the policies my sister had taken out. Like, you just need to get to my niece to get that bank book.
Well, the bank book has been reissued and reissued, but it just keeps disappearing.
Many times.
And it has to be EunTak taking it to keep it from me.
Right. But EunTak knows nothing about this. So, okay. And so the loan sharks go, okay, well, what school does she go to?
This is the most vile thing she's done so far.
Oh, it's disgusting. And it's also disgusting that because two grown men decide to go after a teenager.
Well, they don't care.
Well, no, but it's just like,
yeah.
You're going to take this person who's lied to you for this long anyway? You're going to take her word for it?
Mm-hmm.
You're really bad at your job.
Someone who would endanger a child for her own protection.
Safety. They go to this, outside her school, and she actually gets a text, and it's from her, one of her cousins. It was like, hey, give me $30 and I'll pay back next week. And, she sees her cousin. She's like, nope, I'm not going this way. And she goes a different direction, and the loan sharks go like, hey, we need to talk. And they kidnap her.
Yeah, they just straight shove her into a car.
It's not even like a, hey, have you heard from so-and-so, or I've heard about this, what do you know? It's, you're coming with me now. Very unsettling.
Well, Reaper and Goblin are busy sharing a meal, and it's going about as well as it did the first time, when Goblin asks how he was able to afford rent for 20 years all at once. And he had been saving money from funerals.
For a very long time.
For, 300 years or something like that. And so, throughout the course of the meal, dinner plates and pepper shakers just start to go flying again. One goes out the window, and Goblin laughs, ha! That was a plate from Louis XIV. And then the smile's just gone, and things start to go flying, and we move back to the car. EunTak makes a move to escape the men in the car.
Well, they're ripping up her backpack. They're screaming at her, like, where is it? Where is it? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Goblin and Reaper still busy spinning dinner table items. EunTak is back in the car, insisting that her aunt has to have the money. She has no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And then the man threatens physical violence against her, so she ducks. And then we see her birthmark under her shirt, and it actually illuminates at this point.
Right.
And then everything at the dinner table drops, and Goblin just is staring ahead, and it seems like he knows that something is going on.
Well, and Reaper just makes a comment, and he's like, what, you really want to go for real?
Yeah, thinking that he's about to throw hands because of the look on his face.
It's completely changed.
Yes, and so we're back in the car, and these men are really getting rough with her. And all of a sudden, the car just comes to the screeching halt, and the driver goes, Young, look. And the street lamps from afar have started to explode toward the car. So bam, 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 they're all exploding. And then everything just goes dark, and there's like this haze over the area. And all you see are the car headlights illuminating the road ahead of them. And here's what I expected. I was telling Ashley this earlier. I fully expected to see Goblin just like walking up the road super cool, like in his trench coat or whatever, and being like, hey babe, I'm here to save the day. But I did not expect Grim Reaper to also be walking down the road. When I saw two people, I was like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. I was so excited. Okay, and this was the moment where on this show I was just like, sold.
I'm in.
You got me. I'm here. I had literal chills.
Well, and the best part of it is they are walking with such a purpose.
Oh, those guys are dead.
terrifying. Like, she looks up from her, like, looks up and notices, and she just has, like, relief.
She's crying with relief.
And these men don't have a clue about what is going to happen to them.
Oh, no. Here, I told Ashley, I was like, either Reaper is going because he has a new appointment because Goblin's about to off these guys, or we're seeing his character develop and he's actually a good dude who's like, yeah, we don't do teenage girls in cars with strange men. Like, this is where I draw the line. And so either way, I love it, but I'm so excited to watch the next episode. Yes. I haven't seen it yet. I made myself wait.
I'm very impressed that you made yourself wait, because that...
To be fair, I had kids screaming at me for dinner, so I had to go take care of that. But but that is episode 2.
All right.
Oh, by the way, Goblin looks murderous.
Oh, yes, he does. Yes, he does. They also look like supermodels, as they are.
They are supermodels.
They are.
Oh, it kept recording.
Woo!
Woo! Good. Okay.
But they look like that is a deadly team. Literally.
Honestly, I don't know that I won't be watching the next episode after you go home, even though it'll be like 2 a.m.
So. I don't see
my
the
kids
problem.
will be up in like 4 hours. So.
Oh, well, that is a bummer.
It is a bummer, but it's okay.
I mean, only for the lack of sleep that you'll be receiving.
So, character of the hour.
Oh, I think in this one, it's gonna have to be EunTak. Just with all of the chaos that she deals with, she still has such an optimistic outlook.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, Goblin's not giving her answers, like at the beginning of it, she's like, no, but you have me though. Like you do have my back. So like when she gets the job, she's like my first thing is I need to thank the person who said this is going to happen. Doing the leaf, getting it all prepared so she could give it to Goblin. And then when Reaper shows up and Goblin shows up, and her first instinct is, no, I need to protect this person because he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Obviously he does, but she doesn't know that. And just after learning about him lying, just being like, then I don't need to talk to you.
Yeah.
You're not somebody that I need to waste my time on then, because you clearly don't value honesty. Just in general. At least how you've treated me, and that's not okay. But then also knowing at the end when she's in actual danger, I will be okay. Like, this person's got me. But
yeah,
the maturity that she has been forced to grow into so young, I think she just handles things very well. And also, I just love her being a little kid in a candy shop in Canada. She needed that so bad.
That was precious.
Who's yours?
Sunny. The shop owner.
Yes. Love her.
She was willing to protect EunTak. She barely knows her, but she can read the room and see that she needed to protect her in that moment because her aunt was clearly a psycho.
Giving her a job.
Yeah, and taking her in under her wing when maybe she needed to be taken in herself a little bit. So I love that they're supporting each other, and just her demeanor in general is amazing.
I love her. She's pretty fantastic.
Final thoughts.
Well, I love this, especially the ending of this episode of...
Yeah.
But I love Reaper and Goblin's relationship.
Oh my gosh.
So much. It's like I'm serious, it's my favorite part of this whole show.
Their dinnertime escapades are killing me. They're so funny.
That plate was from Louis XIV.
I know. And the thing is, they sell it so well. Like, they sell their age so well, like in a way that sometimes it comes off cheeseball. But here you actually believe that here's like these immortal beings that are just so inconvenienced by the other's presence that they've resorted to just like toddler-like antics.
It's so good.
And it just feels like it could happen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and they're just, they're easily some of my favorite, one of my favorite duos in any K-drama.
I don't know, bad and crazy. And honestly, a lot of it is just, I love that, what's his name?
Dongwook?
I can't remember his name. Anyway, what his, like... Dongwook. Yeah, I was like, that's not right. Dongwook.
Y'all, it's late.
He has gone from being, like, the lead, annoyed with the guy, to being the annoying guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
yes.
he's on both sides of that coin. So I think it's hilarious. But
and their chemistry is fantastic.
Yes.
They're petty. Again, easily my favorite.
I love that they banded together, though, for this last moment. Because it just shows that their common ground, the reason they can coexist, is because they're both good people.
Right.
So.
And they understand the world. And
they see it through a similar lens, even though it's different.
Right.
All right. That was episode 2.
Episode 2.
I have to go to the bathroom. Really bad. Hence why I'm wiggling out of here.
Run.
As we're talking.
Run away.
I gotta go.
Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at The KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on The KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.